Good morning. Day 4. It's been a it's been a hectic time. I know I keep saying that in the mornings, but it's definitely been an interesting period of time these last 4 days. As far as last night went, it was pretty good. I had a chat with a friend back home in New Zealand who has gone through some similar sorts of things with regards to quitting gaming and quitting drugs and kind of getting his life back on track. And it was nice to hear from someone else who's a close friend of mine who's been experiencing the same sort of drive or urge to do better, to make himself into a better person. And it's hard to explain, but maybe a much less superficial conversation than I was expecting to have, which was really quite good. It was sort of soul nourishing in a lot of ways. I know I talk about Peterson a lot in this podcast, but he talks about how you know that you're in the right place at the right time when you have a conversation with someone that's like, it hits you on all the levels, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Like you really feel it at every level, and it kind of resonates. It makes you feel good, and that was what I had last night. And so I felt good. I felt validated by my decision. And then. Wife came home and we chatted for a little while about things, and yesterday we put an offer in on a house in the city that I live in, and we're both kind of nervous about how that's going to turn out, because it's the first time I've put an offer in on a house, and I think it's the first time Angie has as well, so we were pretty nervous, actually. There's not too much to really report here. This one's going to be quite a short one, I think. But the idea that I have today that I want to put in my video is harking back to something else that had happened to me years ago when I started doing Warhammer 40k. When I started the hobby, I had always been interested in 40k because I kind of like that grim dark universe idea. It was a very fantastical sort of idea, and escapist. It's very escapist. And I purchased I got laid off from work, and as a result I purchased hundreds of dollars worth of the stuff and just got into modeling. And like with video games, I was using it as a way to escape the problems that I was having, the reason why I'd been laid off, and facing down how I felt about myself, or really facing down how far apart my vision of myself was with where I really was. And I really enjoyed the working with my hands part, and the scale and the scope of how detailed you can get with these things. But when I would go to take them to a game store to play them against other people, it was like the universe was shutting me out. And if I use a Matrix visual here, if anyone remembers when Neo is running down the hallway and all of the doors are locked, and he needs to get the guy with the key or whatever to kind of unlock the right door, that's how it felt to me. Was I would go to these gaming sessions and I would sit down and play a game with a guy, and I would get absolutely destroyed, like crushed. Roll nothing but ones. Nothing ever hit. All of my units would die whenever I would roll saves. It was always ones. And it was like that for several sessions, several games that I played, and eventually I just said, screw it, I'm not having any fun here doing this. But that happened to me also with the cards. I spent a lot of time building these Magic the Gathering decks. I spent a lot of time researching the synergies and making sure that the color combinations worked, and I got nice sleeves for them, and I bought these nice boxes to put these decks in. It was like I was really getting into the creation of these. But when I played them, it was like the universe was saying, this isn't for you. And again, I know I'm not trying to be a fruit here, but looking at those two experiences, it makes me wonder if the universe is like, these aren't activities for you. These are activities for people who are not interested in pursuing, or these are activities for other people, and the activities that are meant for you, you're going to have to go out and find them. Or I'm going to throw them, the universe is going to throw them at you until you figure out that this is actually what you're supposed to be doing. And a friend of mine recently contacted me about getting back into refereeing rugby. I've had some good ideas from other people about things that I can be doing. Like we've talked about buying a dog again. I used to have a dog, and up to my first divorce, rather. Anyway, and these were all things that I got a lot of pleasure out of, but that the universe never felt like it was shutting me out of. I would struggle in them, but I would still have some successes, and those successes would come at a little bit of cost, but also they would be greatly fulfilling. And the rugby refereeing one was absolutely that one for a long time, but when I quit it for personal reasons, and kind of being offered to come back, it's like that door opened up again. And so I think it's a thought that I want to kind of work on thinking about. It sounds ridiculous. It's a thought that I want to develop further. And it's a thought that I want to play with by trying to see if it works true with other things. So, yeah. But otherwise, I feel pretty good. I can definitely say this morning that I was wanting to play video games a lot when I got up. Like when I first woke up, I reached my phone and I was like, I wonder what I can find on here that's interesting and distracting. But the truth was, it just made me roll out of bed earlier than normal. And I put my phone down and I came down here and started writing, and here we are. Anyway, for those of you who are watching, kia kaha. That's native New Zealand for be strong, or stand tall, or however you want to interpret it. But I guess the advice from today is, if you feel like you're being shut out of something, take a step back and look at maybe whether or not that's a pattern, and maybe whether or not the things that you're trying to get into, or the things that you're trying to replace video gaming with, are maybe not the right things to replace it with. And instead of trying to push through those closed doors, maybe you turn around and look for the doors that are open, and try going through one of those, because it may end up being that the door that's open is the door that's right for you, and that may be the right thing for you to replace gaming with. Anyway, that's all from me for day 4. Yeah. Ka kite.